At your feet lays... Alright, I didn't need God mode. Wow. Okay, at your feet lays the body of Theos Hollow, the dense wrinkled shape by the silent soul remains defenseless.
All those lifetimes spent to preserve a single vital secret. I would expect a man to reconsider his choices after the first 500 years.
Really?
That's the servant down and the mistress still to go. A good start, worthy of being built upon.
After journeying for lifetimes, I can't imagine his failure, knowing it was all for nothing.
He was good at serving his god, I give him that. But he should have picked a better one. He spent his lives, more than any of us will ever know. For what? Binding the world to a lie.
Could a man
like that ever be redeemed?
Let's see. Let's look at his soul. With a deep breath, you plunge into Theos' soul, and where in Brackenberry it had been a maze of narrow corridors and dead ends, now it is expansive and borderless, its walls crumbling into heaps, like the ruins of Engwith as you pass through them. You travel for what seems like ages, rushing to a known destination, a memory you glimpsed once before. At last you see it. No more than a pinprick of light at the end of the long tunnel, expanding slowly at first, then quickly as you near. You come out in the room you are standing in now. It is new and pristine and filled with people, thousands of them, all turned towards the great Aegir pillar, and the machine encases it. Theos stands at the machine. You are one with him now. You look out at the crowd, at the faces of shriveled old men, cherub-cheeked little girls, at mothers bouncing infants to quiet them, and fathers clasping their children's restless hands and watching with somber acceptance. A woman with tears in her eyes gives you a small nod. You turn back toward the machine, your breath constricted, beneath the weight of unwanted knowledge, preparing yourself to set out alone on a journey without end. You close your eyes and open them again to find the machine still in front of you, beckoning. You take your place in front of it, place your hands upon a large mechanical disc at the base of the great crystal column, and speak a single word. Giant rings creak to life, building speed, setting arrays of carved draconic mouths aglow, and setting tremors through the platform beneath you. The entire room shakes now with the force of the accelerating machine, all sound drowned out by its deep, deafening thrum. Brilliant tendrils of light arc outward the pillar in all directions, and you look over your shoulder to see them engulfing the crowd, burning them brightly like hot iron. One by one the tendrils disappear, leaving ashen effigies where people once stood, many of them disintegrating into gray heaps underneath the stress of the tremors. You look above to the Aegir pillar, and a glowing spherical mass has begun to coalesce atop the column where the arcs converge. It grows and pulses, translucent and bulbous, like some immense chrysalis, suspended in slow rotation as though it was being spun from arcs of light. When the arcs disappear, the spectral mass hangs a moment, no longer rotating. So bright you must shield your eyes with an outstretched hand, and it seems to you as though it is looking at you. You bow your head in acknowledgement, look back up to see it melt into the pillar like warm candle wax. The pillar flares with a flash of light bright as the sun itself, then fades to darkness. The machine slows down to an abrupt halt, and when the last echo of its grinding cogs has passed, the chamber is still and you are alone. From all sides, reality begins to bleed through the memory. You find yourself in your own skin once, looking down at Theos' lifeless body. You sense a listlessness to Theos' soul, an overwhelming fatigue that hinders its immediate escape, making it vulnerable to manipulation. You feel as though your victory has given you some kind of hold over it, and you are able to do it now as you please. Return to the cycle. He'll just do it again. Why would I return him to the cycle? Tear his soul apart. Theos manages though to destroy other memories. Tear his soul apart. I'm gonna tear your soul apart. I cannot let him live. I cannot allow him to have even the smallest chance of escaping his banishment. He might somehow he might regain his memories. I have to tear his soul apart.
Was there nothing there worth saving? Forgive me. I know you chose wisely.
I can't risk it.
A quick end. This is a mercy.
You reach out for Theos' soul and you can feel its frailty and defeat. Its structure like a coarse and threadbare cloth on the brink of disintegration. You insinuate yourself between the threads, pushing the weaving apart, unraveling the stitching until it is bereft of structure, a formless heap bound together by nothing at all. In its midst, you dedicate your focus to a single idea. The idea is shatter. You concentrate, and as you concentrate, you feel a force building within your soul, an outward pressure that strains against containment, threatening to rupture your spirit. When you can contain it no more, you transfer it into Theos' soul at once and release it there. A detonation of will that expands in all directions, driving out the remnants of his essence, scattering it into nothingness. You can feel his presence no more. In the stillness that follows, a single word echoes through your mind. A word that you spoke when you were one with Theos in the ancient memory. You realize it's the word that activates the machine.
Of course.
Oh, great. Now I have to talk to everyone. Hey there.
Theos, he had hold of your soul from a long time back, seems like. You get what you needed from him?
I got the answer to an old question.
Those can be hard to come by. I feel for people still looking for theirs. Easy to see what it means to them to have someone to look to for answers. You'll be feeling better soon then. Good. That's real good. You got it figured out what you're going to do about all that?
Yeah, I think I know what I'm gonna do.
Got a lot of people out there thinking they've been abandoned by their gods. There's not much that'll put the fear in you more than that. You can take my word for it. If it was in my power, and I know it's not, but if it was, I'd send every last one of those souls right back where they were supposed to go in the first place. So folks could get back to believing what they used to.
I was planning on it.
And after what you've been through, though, I'm sure you got your own ideas. Better make it good.
And he winks at me. Alright, Kana,
Yes?
what you got to say?
We've come to the end of it, my friend. It has been an honor to walk this road with you, and I will regret our parting.
Oh, I can go back with you. All the hard-won lessons we survived, I will carry back with me to Ratatai. I'll try to do justice by your story. It's both stranger and more exciting than anything I could ever have conjured up. Victory agrees with you, Ares. You look as if a great weight has lifted from your shoulders. I am glad for it. Hey, Aloth.
Astounding. I always knew the Leaden Key stood for something big, but I didn't quite realize what I'd gotten myself into. And now, you're in the middle of something even bigger. With a decision that will affect millions. But even if you send the souls somewhere specific now, who knows what the next turn of the wheel will make of them? We can't really control what happens to them. Nor should we try. I had to see the monster Theos had become to realize that.
Maybe so.
It's your decision, of course. And whatever you decide, I'm glad our paths crossed in Gilded Vale.
Hey, Durance.
Ah, the end of the road greets us at last. You fared well, Watcher. Better than any Watcher has right to. Seems you were a field in need of a flame's cleansing.
Or you needed a watcher to tell you what the fuck to do.
Would that my own trial had produced such an outcome. I had figured myself for the field all this time. But you were the field, and I the darkness. A lesson neither of Durance nor of Margaret. But with that trial's end, a new one begins. A god's trial. And I will stand in judgment without mercy.
You go
Ready,
beat up
Watcher.
Woodica.
Never thought I'd see something like this in my travels. Lends a little perspective, doesn't it? To think, the decisions the Angwithans made thousands of years ago still shape our lives today. It would be a shame to deny these souls the chance to find their own way and their own purpose.
Thank you for traveling with me.
I'd probably still be twiddling my thumbs by the side of the road if you hadn't come along. Thanks for bringing us this far.
Okay, end of the game, guys. I guess I didn't need God mode afterward. That felt satisfying.
I'd be glad to.
Hey,
Alright, let's, can I take a nap first? Thank you. I feel a little more comfortable taking a nap first. Alright. Let's send these guys back to where they're supposed to go. With your companions bearing witness, you step up to the place where Theos once stood, before his people long ago. The great machine lies in front of you, idle, ready. You've seen this machine, and like others in operation, you understand how it works. It is a device for directing souls. As a watcher, it would be a simple matter to influence that direction, though as big as the machine is, it may be the last thing you ever do. Speak the command word. There's a shrieking of stone grinding against stone as old cause loosen and begin to turn. You only have moments before the souls will be sent into the Age of Vain. This will be your only chance at redirecting them. Return the souls to the bodies they were intended for. You close your eyes and expand your perception outward, taking in the immense totality of the tens of thousands of souls orbiting the chamber. Your grasp on the souls is tenuous. You find yourself fighting to keep them all within your influence, and you can feel them slipping away as the machine gains speed. A brief moment comes when it feels as though you hold them all at once, and their force is so great it feels as though they will tear you apart. In the moment, you dedicate your being to bending their orbit, channeling their flow in a new direction.
At your command, the ancient device became your instrument, spinning to life with deafening resonance and gathering up the swirling essence like thread on a great spindle. There, in the pale, pulsing glow of the machine that set you on this path long ago, you summoned all your strength, focusing on your objective and blocking out all else. With a single concussive blast that rocked the chamber and sent you tumbling to the ground, you freed the souls from their stasis. Exhausted, your consciousness slipping away, your last sight was of the machine, dark and dormant. Then your eyes closed, and sleep welcomed you at long last. After coming to and searching for some time, you discovered the route Theos used to enter Sun and Shadow, and embarked on a long and arduous ascent back to the surface. You emerged in Ter Evron after days of tunneling through the rubble Theos had left behind, and when you stepped into the daylight, you were faced with a different Deerwood than the one you had left. At your direction, the souls diverted by Theos were guided back to the vessels originally meant for them. For the first time, parents of hollow-born children woke to the cries of their infants, and looked into their eyes to see them staring back. People fell to their knees where they stood, thanking Helia or Mogren, or even Aethys for their forgiveness of whatever guilt they felt they bore. But for all the relief that had come to some parents, others only found new grief. For many thousands of Hollowborn had died during Widewind's legacy, many by their parents' own hands. For those children, there would be no homecoming. Yet the last Hollow birth was in the past now, and those parents willing to risk trying for a new child were frequently rewarded, often with twins. Many felt they saw Helia's hand in it, and the year would be remembered as the year of Helia's splendor. Lord Radric's zeal had brought him back to life once, but it would not do so again. Radric's destruction at your hands spelled the end of his suffocating rule over Gilded Vale and the surrounding area. In his absence, the village prospered, becoming a popular destination for new settlers anxious to leave Defiance Bay after the riots. Without a nearby ruler, it also grew more wild, with many settlers moving on as soon as they'd arrived, turned off by lawlessness that was excessive even by Deerwooden standards. Nevertheless, despite the challenges of living there, Gilded Vale had survived,
and would continue to survive for the foreseeable future. Following the assassinations of Duke Avar Wolfgren and Lady Webb, Defiance Bay was thrown into political upheaval. In the ensuing weeks, the streets had become the domain of looters and blackguards. Few dared to step outside their own doors alone or unarmed. But order was soon re-established by the Knights of the Crucible, who, despite their depleted numbers, had gained favor in the public eye for their role in the unraveling of the conspiracy surrounding Widewind's legacy, and were quickly reinforced by returning forces from Fleetbreaker Castle. For the Knights, their resurgence marked a return to the tradition as well.
Good.
Having seen firsthand the dangers presented by dabblers in animancy, the Order quickly abolished the practice internally, preferring the familiarity of their hammers and forges to the uncertainties of Essence and Adra. Their identity rediscovered, the Knights suppressed their political aspirations and began once again to train their recruits in the art of blacksmithing, recapturing the post-revolutionary ideals of Deerwood and regaining the respect of its citizens as a result.
Good.
Though the machine atop Ter Noaneth had been disabled, it had not seen its last use. Heritage Hill was rebuilt, and no sooner had the first families moved in to resettle the district than members of the Leaden Key, acting under standing orders from their Grand Master, climbed the tower and reactivated the machine. The initiates slew a handful of the new settlers under cover of night and watched as history repeated itself, the victims reanimating and devouring the survivors. After this second incident, the district would remain abandoned.
Should have destroyed that machine.
The Duke's assassination at the apparent hands of an animancer had caused catastrophic rioting in the streets of Defiance Bay. But those who had escaped the melee in the palace hearings remembered the testimonies of the strange guest who had shown up that day and absolved animancy, implicating the Leaden Key instead. The rumor spread quickly, and soon the popular belief was that the assassin had been a Leaden Key spy. When the legacy had lifted, people came to see it not as a sign that the riots had been according to the gods' wishes, as Theos had hoped, but as a confirmation that animancy had never been the source of the problem in the first place. Deerwoodans instead convinced themselves that the riots had somehow purged Defiance Bay of Leaden Key spies, and that the end of Widewind's legacy was their well-deserved reward. The rage against animancers was quickly forgotten, and those who had survived were permitted to return to Brackenbury Sanitarium and rebuild it so they might resume their studies. The fortress of Cadnua emerged as a bastion of security in the midst of an untamed land, becoming the envy of every thane and earl in Deerwood. Legend grew over time of its impregnability, and stories of formidable invaders easily scattered by the keep's defenses became popular around the hearths of Deerwoodinians. Likewise, it also became a beacon to travelers, merchants, and visiting dignitaries alike. Reputed as the finest fortress in all Deerwood, people would journey from near and distant lands alike to experience its fabled hospitality and grandeur.
So you have to kill that dragon.
Pallegina had gone against the Duke's Bell's orders by inventing a new trade arrangement with the Anamenfath to accommodate the recovering Deerwooden market. With the Deerwood's people still weakened by Widewind's legacy, the Valian republics easily pushed their would-be competitors out of the market. For her outrageous insubordination and audacity, Pallegina was banished from the republics. She traveled north in the Eastern Reach, avoiding Valian ports and entering the ranks of the kind wayfarers. Despite her bravery and dedication to those in her care, her strange appearance made her feel like an outsider wherever she went. With your business concluded, Haravius quietly took his leave and headed home to Thane Bog. The elders of the Fisher Crane had not warmed to Haravius in his absence, and when he arrived, he was denounced and scorned. Haravius spoke of his deeds and of his communion with Galawain, yet none would support his petition to return to the tribe.
Assholes.
One by one, starting with the oldest, Haravius challenged each member of the council to single combat, humiliating the Riau in a series of savage duels. With half the council bloodied and shamed, the elders at last acknowledged Haravius' strength, announcing him a hunter of the Fisher Crane tribe. Upon being granted this title, Haravius calmly left the village and embarked again on his life of wandering. Adair chose not to return home to Gilded Vale. Through a number of quiet inquiries, he soon found his way into the underground organization of Aethasians known as the Night Market. Ironically, in learning that the gods had been fabricated, Adair found his faith in Aethus renewed, and that his god was neither alive nor truly a god had become irrelevant. He rose quickly through the ranks of the Night Market for his optimism and for his bold leadership, his ultimate goal to make the Deerwood a place that would welcome followers of the Shining God once again. When the dust settled in Sun and Shadow, Aloth looked upon the remains of Theos Ixarchanon, his former master. He saw where the Grandmaster had gone wrong and what would be required to undo the harm Theos had wrought. With a flick of his wrist, he burned Theos's robe, headdress, and every other symbol of the man's power. Never again, he vowed, should Kith live in fear and blind obedience to an authority they did not understand. Armed with the knowledge and courage he had gained on his journeys with the Watcher, he set out on the long and lonely task of dismantling the Leaden Key. With both their aims fulfilled, Kanarua bid the Watcher farewell and sailed back to his beloved Rawatai. There, he came before the Lore College, determined to guide his people down a better path. Before his intrigued peers, he spoke of the accomplishments of the great people of Engwith and their efforts to bring peace to Rawatai and the myriad cultures of Eora. He presented the shattered tablet as proof of the Tonvi Oratoa's existence beyond Rawatai's borders and the shared ideals of Eora's peoples. Kana called for a new age in Rawatai culture, where his people might take their place at the forefront of progress and pave the way toward a better future. Kanarua's speech proved inspiring, and his voice came to be considered an influential one in the push toward continued progress in the northern continent. With Theos defeated and the souls released from Sun and Shadow, healthy children were born once again in the Deerwood. The grieving mother sought a place where she might do penance for the birthing bell. She returned to Deerford, where, to the astonishment of the villagers, she delivered the first healthy child in over a decade. She remained there, and with each new birth, she saw a measure of hope restored to the Deerwood, and a measure of grace for her own troubled past. Durrance used Magrin's strength only until Theos had been cast from the world, and then swore off her influence entirely. Regret came to weigh heavily on his mind, and a man who had never previously lacked for words or opinions came to embrace silence and contemplation. He continued to wander, penniless and destitute, searching now not for the reason for his goddess's silence, but for a mechanism for revenge. The charred robes he continued to wear as a reminder that he had been burned by his goddess, and not just by the flames of the Godhammer. Sagani experienced the 4 months of her journey back to Masuk in vivid colors. She strove to memorize every moment of her final trip through the Deerwood, Glonfoth, the Valian Republics, and beyond, preparing to tell her village of what she had seen on her long journey. All of Masuk shared in her triumph, and she felt her pride and elation magnified by the joy of her village. Never again did she doubt the value of her sacrifices. After decades as a long hunter, Sagani finally became one of Masuk's most respected elders. She guided her community with wise counsel, and a generation after she finally passed, another huntress journeyed into the world to find her soul. For you, the death of Theos brought an end to your waking visions, and a silence to the whispers of the past. In their absence, you were able to sleep. The questions of a distant lifetime ceased to trouble your soul. All that remained was what to make of the answer. But at the moment, there was little to be done, and the matter would have to wait. A long journey loomed ahead.
And that was Pillars of Eternity. Let's speed up these credits to see if there's anything at the end. Alright, still going. Still going. Still going. That must be all the Kickstarter guys. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. I know. There are a lot of people who help. Blah, 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 blah. I can't go faster than this, guys. I'm sorry. That's a lot of people. We're on L, M. That's like M's, N, P, R, S. I didn't donate to this. I didn't help kickstart this game. Still more things. Yay! We're done! Woo! Woo! Well, not woo, because we have the White March to still complete at some point when I can afford it. Well, that was kind of awesome. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story. I'm glad, like, they didn't give anything away till the end. It was great. I feel bad for what happened to Pelagina, but she did what she thought was right. So, can't blame her for that. Yeah, I'm done. Jesus Christ, what was that, like, what, 120 something episodes or something like that? Ah. Well, I'm your very cute Jam. Thank you very much for journeying with me and sticking by me. And I hope I see you guys in Shadowrun. Have an awesome, awesome day.